So, yeah, I'm back out in a Golf GTi, and I'm in the current gen, so latest gen, Mark 8. Looks are subjective, although if you have looked at some of the Mark 8 Golfs that are out there, I've got to say that this Clubsport edition, or Clubsport 45 edition, is got to be one of the best ones out there at the moment. Obviously, it seems certainly as though a lot of people are not liking the current gen looks as much as the previous generation, although the cabin has had definitely an updated feel to it, and obviously it really is a little bit of extra quality now in the cabin. Don't get me wrong, it's not something that I would say has ever been an issue for Volkswagen Audi Group cars. They've always been, you know, really, really good, and they know what they're doing when it comes to interior quality. The cabin has, yes, a really nice kind of feeling underneath your fingertips. Very nice levers, very high quality kind of plastic, hardened plastics. But for me, obviously, it doesn't matter too much. I mean, it does because you're obviously going to be living with this car. But one of the most important factors of a car like this is certainly the way it drives. So let's talk a little bit more about the way it drives. I'm leaving it obviously at the moment in comfort mode. It does have a range of different sporting modes, much like the Golf R. In fact, probably too many, but maybe a little bit less than the Golf R. But it's got an array of different performance settings and different kind of comfort settings. So I'm going to just explore those modes now for you using the touchscreen dial. Very intuitive, very quick responding, nice infotainment system in here. But again, we're here at Millbrook Proving Ground to test the chassis. So let's do just that. I'm going to put it into sports. You know, these come even in quite low form, you know, quite nicely loaded with options, which is decent. Obviously, as any Volkswagen Audi Group car, if you know, when you start adding lots of options, it can become very vast and the price can be quite a lot more. The interior and the buttons are also that haptic touch. So basically you can just touch them ever so slightly. But yeah, it has a haptic touch, and there is a mode button on the front of the console, normally roughly where a stereo is, so it's in a good position. And you can just change it. And I said actually you can do a lot of different things with this, but it definitely has a lot less driving modes than the Golf R. The Golf R, I believe, has something like 15. This seems to have 4, but you can have it individually set up, so you can adjust the steering and the suspension and things like that. It does have active suspension as well as a proper mechanical diff, you'll be pleased to know, and the diff definitely does a very good job, which I'll show you in a moment. But I'm just going to change to the sport, and when you go into the sport, the Nurburgring mode, which you see on the Golf R, is also available. But yeah, I'm going to put it in sports mode, and then I will try the Nurburgring mode, and we'll give it a little bit more of a push. Let's see what the brakes are like first. Really, really good brakes. Lovely feel, and I always call that modulation. Brake modulation feel. Nice tight hairpin up the top here. Let's give it a little push. Brakes are really, really good. Really, really strong performing brakes. Let's go into the left-hand lane. Really, really good front end on this car. Nice, firm, but not too firm chassis. Brakes, I say brake feel, which I say you get modulation through, is beautiful. Comes with a lovely heads-up display as well, which does help you kind of keep focused on the road ahead. This banked turn, it feels lovely on this. I can't rattle this up the gears too much, guys, because obviously there's speed limits around this test facility, but it's fairly generous. But yeah, like I say, under brakes, this is very confidence inspiring. The chassis stays very, very neutral. Obviously this has a DSG box, which, you know, they are sublime. In this sports mode, you might be able to hear a crackle from an Akrapovic exhaust, or a Krapovic, some people call it. Each your own. But it's a titanium exhaust system out of the factory from Akrapovic. and yeah, really nice sounding even on sports mode. I suspect it gets a little bit wider even on Nurburgring mode, but yeah, this is lovely under the brakes, has a really nice front end, a very confidence inspiring chassis, stays nice and flat, but the dampening has got some nice control on it, which I really like. It definitely feels an upgrade over some of the lesser GTi models, which are still obviously incredibly special, and still hold a torch to my heart. They are really good, but this chassis on this Clubsport 45 has definitely brought it on. It is definitely even better. So we're going to change the mode this time round into Nurburgring, which is a special setting. Let's see how much wilder it feels, and let's see if it feels nervous or whether it feels like it's too much for the car around these bumpy circuits. Weirdly, the Millbrook Proving Ground hill section is very much like a little mini Nurburgring, so it's going to be a great test to it. Do you know what? Even on Nurburgring mode, it actually isn't too intrusive in terms of sound, so it's not got really loud in the cockpit. It's not noisy even from exhaust if you're not on the throttle. So yeah, it's really good so far. And like I say, as hot hatches go, this kind of gives you that nice little naughty balance, or that little step up from a Golf R, and it definitely does. The Golf R feels more safe and more like it looks after you. This kind of still feels like it really looks after you in terms of how hot hatches go, but this feels like it can be wild if you want it to be, but it can be held back and nice and comfortable on a long run. You could easily daily a car like this. But let's talk about the motor now as well. I always check for response of the motor and how the motor feels by just doing a little throttle blip and modulate the throttle. I'm still enjoying the chassis at the same time, exploiting these corners. Yeah, you could probably feel a little bit more slip angle as we're putting it into Nurburgring mode. You can feel maybe the traction control is a little less intrusive. And yeah, it probably is a little bit more amplified now on the sounds, but yeah, it definitely feels a little bit more darty, and the car feels like it wants to rotate more in this setting. Definitely the dampening definitely now skips around the road a little bit more. Yeah, and it will jump about and jump from, you know, almost a side to a side, because obviously the dampening's a lot more stiff, or quite a bit more stiff. But it goes well. Such a nice front end. I have said it already, but this is very nice. And yeah, like I said about the throttle modulation, the engine character and throttle, I'm going to drop it down. If I just, very responsive, so well matched turbo. A very well matched turbo for the power. Let's give it a bit more of a push with that. See if we can rotate the rear. Nice. Yeah, it definitely darts around a lot more. But yeah, obviously I'm enjoying this because I'm going a bit quiet, which I love. This has got a lovely chassis, a really nice chassis. Well balanced, but when you put it in the wilder modes, you can get it to rotate a little bit more, get that front end to feel like it's almost going to rotate, so you can get that to turn in. Really nice, really nice. And then hit the mode, go into comfort, all dials down, feels instantly more quiet, calm and comfortable, and you could just daily this car easy. And it will do 35 miles per gallon all day long if you drive carefully, and I've been told these can even get closer to around 40 on a long run as well if you're careful. Very clever, nice, silky smooth, efficient engine. Very nice. So let's talk stats now, just really quickly. 0 to 62 in 5.6 seconds, and electronically limited to a top speed of 155 miles an hour. Aside from that, obviously, it's got a lovely silky smooth 2 litre 4-cylinder motor, and it kicks out 300 PS, so kind of circa 290 brake horsepower, with 400 Newton meters of torque. So it's a very punchy motor. Often Volkswagen Audi Group do down torque these motors as well. So yeah, whether it's really kicking out that, I don't know. It's probably close to that, because obviously it doesn't feel as quick in a straight line as a Golf R, but it definitely still feels really quick. It doesn't quite feel as quick as something like, again, the FK8 in a straight line. But actually, as hot hatches go, it's probably one of the first chassis I felt that has got a bit closer to the chassis of the FK8. So that, coupled together with the fact that obviously this is comfortable, you could easily daily, it's got a really nice interior. Volkswagen are pretty much onto a winner here, I think. This is a really well-rounded package in terms of hot hatches. So I really like this car, and I think if I spent even more time with this, I would really absolutely love this car. So yeah, I am hugely impressed with the chassis. Lovely gearbox, lovely motor, really nice confidence inspiring brakes, and the most important thing is dynamically it feels really good. Just touching really quickly on steering weight and feel. For me, it probably is still a little bit light. A lot of these Volkswagen Audi Group cars do that and do have that. Even on the wildest mode, which I'm just going to turn on now to see what kind of weight we get back on the Nurburgring one. Yeah, it does get a bit of weight, actually. Do you know what? I would probably change the individual settings to have the steering feel and steering weight on the heaviest feeling. Because actually, the Nurburgring setting in terms on the steering and throttle response, maybe the chassis control is probably maybe a little bit wild for fast road, I would say. I'd probably go with sport for that. But I would probably, for all-round normal driving, I'd probably change the individual settings into a lot of very sporty modes, but without the dampening being too stiff. And then I would basically put the steering into the stiffest mode, which is the Nurburgring mode. So yeah, it's still, in my opinion, even in Nurburgring mode, a little bit light. That being said, overall, it's incredibly good and decent. It's not too light. Like I say, I'd like it a little bit heavier than even on the Nurburgring setting, but overall, really good. So yeah, what's my summarization on this car before I check out? Well, I would certainly consider this car. It's probably been one of the best hot hatches I've driven in a while, and it's probably overtaken lots of my top list cars in terms of hot hatches for getting closer to that outright crown. Like I say, it's always the final thought as to what you decide to buy in terms of hot hatch has got to be something that basically ticks all the boxes that you need. If you need a comfortable car that needs to be a daily car, and you want it to have all the creature comforts of, say, a half decent executive car, this is probably the hot hatch to buy. It still looks a little bit wild on the outside, because obviously the 45 edition has the decals and stuff like that, although you can specify to have it without, if you ask nicely. But I'd have it with everything. You may as well shout about it being a limited edition model, and why wouldn't you? But as a prospect, as an all-round car, what do I think of it? I think it's absolutely superb, and I think if you're even mildly considering one, buy it or go and drive it. I'm sure you will enjoy it, and then buy it, I'm sure. Yeah, what an awesome machine Volkswagen have created in this new Mark 8 Golf GTi Clubsport 45. bit of a mouthful. But yeah, I absolutely love the drive of this car, and have really enjoyed my drive. So if you've got any comments, like I said before, guys, hit us up in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, like, share, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you again in the next one. Bye for now.